My name is Elizabeth Marshall Thomas. I'm going to be reading from a book called Growing Old, which has come out recently. Okay. The deaths I fear are those of others. At my stage of life, you read the obituaries in the local paper, hoping you don't see one of your friends. Too often you do, but your life goes on as always, or seems to, no matter how stricken you are when these deaths occur. The ability to trudge onward, no matter what, is a skill the elderly develop. Without it, I doubt that we'd manage. So it's not that the deaths of loved ones don't affect us deeply, but by the time we're old, we're imprinted with what we're supposed to do, and we keep doing it. What else should we do? Lie on the floor, screaming and kicking? No. We note the date of the funeral because we plan to attend. Then we empty the dishwasher and put the dishes away. Losing a loved one can begin as early as childhood. When I was starting grade school, my mother's mother, we called her Gran, died of Christian Science. She was only in her 60s, but she had cancer. And although she didn't proselytize Christian Science the way my other grandmother, Nana, proselytized evangelical fundamentalism, she kept the Christian Science doctrine and believed that her faith would protect her. Although Gran lived with us in Massachusetts, she was in California visiting her sister, whom we called Aunt Maggie, when her symptoms became obvious. Aunt Maggie took Gran to a hospital where they learned that the cancer had spread throughout her body and was advanced and inoperable. Aunt Maggie phoned my mother. That's another event I'll always remember. I was in the next room when my mother answered the phone, and soon I heard her rustling things quickly in the closet. Then I heard her running down the stairs. I looked over the banister and saw her with a suitcase running out the door. I looked out the window and saw her getting in a taxi. Months would pass before I saw her again. Also living with us in Cambridge were a Finnish couple, Tom and Kirsty Johnson, who were surrogate parents to my brother and me, doing the housekeeping and looking after me and my brother when my parents were away. We missed our mom and our gran when they were in California and had little concept of why they were there, so we decided to send them a letter. We could write a few words such as bug and cat, but we couldn't write a letter, so Tom would take dictation. But what to write about? By then we knew what death meant, but Gran was alive. And alive meant living as we knew it, a life without sorrow or problems. Tom had recently taken us to the zoo where we had seen an elephant. While we were staring at this awesome creature, she curved her tail upward, bent her hind legs slightly, and pushed out 3 large turds. We'd never seen anything like it. We laughed and cheered. Confident that Gran and our mother would want to know about this, we shared the experience in our letter. At the time, we called urine Baba, our youthful attempt at bathroom, and bowel movements movies, which is why we'd be puzzled when friends would tell our parents that they'd seen an excellent movie. They might name the producer or the theater where they'd seen it, and often enough, our parents would say they'd like to see it too. We saw an elephant's movies. We laughed as she produced them, laughed more as we dictated our letter, and ended the letter by describing the funniest part of the experience with a sentence I remember to this day. The movies resounded plop, plop, plop. How's that for humor? Even Tom was laughing. Gran and our mom knew what movie meant to us, and because back then it took a while for a letter to get from Massachusetts to California, a week or so later, our mom called Tom to tell him that they disapproved of the vulgarity. Somehow I learned of this, but couldn't quite identify what we'd done that was wrong. I still didn't realize that Gran was dying, even though I'd seen my mother run out of the house. Gran's family had lived in California, and she was buried with her husband, who had died there when my mother was a child. I missed Gran painfully, but my life went on normally, going to school, trying to read the funnies, making little model dinosaurs, and playing with my brother, pretending that we were raccoons. Even so, children can internalize things without knowing it. And 30 years later, one night when I was falling asleep, I heard Gran say, "Elizabeth," as clearly as if she was in the room. And wasn't she? Her voice was inside me, the same after all those years.